upon a time, in a small village called Obieze, located at the top of a mountain surrounded by rivers, there lived a small group of villagers who lived in great terror and fear. For the past 2 decades, the village of Obieze has been under constant attack from a neighboring village called the Ijemba tribe that was known to have the strongest and greatest of warriors. Obieze village was seen as the village of weaklings, and so the Ijemba tribe constantly waged war against Obieze, which made the villagers live in constant fear. Although Obieze villagers were tired of living in fear, they didn't know what to do. But after years of suffering and living in fear, there came a helper sent from above. In Obieze, there was a seer who always proclaimed the future of Obieze village. The seer of Obieze proclaimed the birth of a great hero who would fight for Obieze.
Finally, there seems to be a light at the end of the tunnel. Help has finally located us. Cry no more, my people, for help has come. There will be a birth of a great hero who will wipe the tears of Obieze villagers. He will fight and win our battles, and everyone who hears his name shall tremble on their feet. A great warrior will be born soon, and he shall be named Ezedike.
After a few months, priestess made the proclamation. A certain woman called Ugodia became pregnant. Ugodia has been married for 35 years to a farmer called Owa. They had been married without a child, and this had made them live in sorrow and pain. One day, as Ugodia sat at the front of her hut, she saw little children playing on the sand. This made her reflect deeply about her life without a child.
What a miserable life I have been living. A life of pain and loneliness. After so many years of pleading for a child, yet none seems to be forthcoming. Look at other women having their children playing around. They are happy, but I have nothing, not even a single child. I will end it today. I will drown myself inside the village river. Yes, this is the easiest way to end my pain.
Ugodia arose and began to journey to the village river to drown herself. As she walked, she kept on crying. But unknown to her, she was pregnant. And not with just any kind of child, but the child who was going to save the entire village from calamities and wars. When she got to the village river, she entered deeply into the river, and as she was about to drown, something strange happened. She felt a very urgent and intense urge to vomit. She quickly ran out of the water and vomited a lot. After vomiting, she felt so weak that she had to lie down at the river bank. After a while, she lost the courage to drown herself, as she had once thought. So she left and went back home. After a few weeks, she began to notice some changes in her body. She never knew she was pregnant until a friend of hers who came to visit her confirmed that she was pregnant. It was then that Ugodia realized that she was pregnant and that the changes in her body were as a result of the pregnancy. There was great joy and uproar in the village, and everyone was happy for Ugodia and her husband. The priestess, however, knew that the great warrior who would save the village from terror was the child in Ugodia's womb. And from time to time, she secretly came to observe Ugodia from a distance to know how she was doing. After 8 months, when it was almost time for Ugodia to put to bed, one morning, the priestess arrived at her hut and told her,
"Congratulations, Ugodia. The child in your womb is the child who will save Obieze village from doom and calamity. He has been chosen to fight great battles and do wonders. Not even you can stop him because he possesses a very great spiritual gift. And for you to confirm the prophecy, on the day you will give birth, there shall be a heavy flood all through the village of Obieze. And this will mark a new era for Obieze village. You shall call him Ezedike, meaning the strongest. Your son shall have a weakness, which is alcohol. You must never give him anything containing alcohol. That is his weakness. And any day he tests alcohol, he will lose half of his power. You must protect your son at all costs."
The priestess conveyed the message to her and finally left. Ugodia was filled with anger and she said,
"Why must he be my son? Why must my son be the chosen hero? He's all that I have. Why must his fate be determined even before he is born? Why? Why should I depend on my son for safety?"
Ugodia felt so bad, and this made her really sad. 2 weeks passed, and it was time for Ugodia to put to bed the young hero. That beautiful evening, at about 5 p.m., Ugodia went into labor. And during her hours of labor, everywhere was dark across the whole village, as if it was night. There was a heavy downfall and thunderstorm. The trees were shaking and the entire village was flooded. Everyone knew that the priestess' prophecy was about to come to pass, and they patiently waited to hear the cry of the great warrior. After 3 hours of pain and distress, Ugodia gave birth to a beautiful baby boy. The great warrior was finally born. The next day, the villagers trooped in large numbers to Ugodia's compound to congratulate her and also see the young hero who was going to save their community. Some came along with large goats, some came with rams and different items to welcome and congratulate the mother and the hero. It was indeed a moment of joy and jubilation for the entire village and Ugodia's family. Ugodia and her husband were very happy that finally they had a child they could call theirs, and they became one big happy family, highly respected and feared by many in the entire Obieze village. 16 years later, Ezedike grew into a very handsome young man. He was huge in stature and was like a great warrior. Ezedike was a fearsome warrior with a legendary strength and skill. He was a master of all weapons and he could defeat any opponent. He was also a noble and valiant leader who was always willing to fight for what was right. Wherever he went, people trembled before him as a result of his big body build. The villagers hailed him with praises every time he passed. Few months later, there was an alarming and frightening news about the Ijemba people invading the Obieze village. The people of Obieze received this threatening letter from the neighboring village to surrender half of their land. Obieze was in great fear and there was an uproar of chaos around the village. Everyone was scared of the unknown. Ezedike, seeing the distress the Ijembas had caused in his hometown, decided to secretly go and fight with Ijemba. On the day the Ijembas decided to invade Obieze, Ezedike fought them single-handedly and defeated them. The terrified Ijembas could not understand how one man had defeated them. They were scared and they ran for their lives. Ezedike was celebrated across all the village. Everyone sang his praises. They showered him with lots of gifts, jewelries, and fruits, and many more offerings. This made him a rich and noble figure in Obieze kingdom. He fought for many years, defending their lands and boundaries. But soon, things began to change for the young warrior. One beautiful morning, as Ezedike was moving across, in the village forest, he saw a beautiful girl named Olamma, sitting by the side of the bush, crying. Olamma was a beautiful girl who was an orphan, who lived all alone. That morning, she had gone to pick some firewood inside the forest, where she fell from a hill and broke her legs. She was unable to move or walk, so she sat there crying when Ezedike came to her rescue. Ezedike took pity on her and carried her home to her hut.